The opposition Conservatives say Mark Carney is lying about his role in the relocation of a major Canadian company's head office to the United States. Brookfield Asset Management moved its headquarters to New York to expand its opportunities in the U.S. Carney was the chair of that company until he resigned to seek the Liberal leadership. Carney insisted the move was approved after he left the company, but the timeline and the paper trail show that Carney played a key role in the relocation before his jump to politics. The CBC's JP Tasker joins us now to walk us through this particular controversy. So JP, a lot of complex components to this. Help us explain this, why the controversy here.
Yeah, so Mark Carney, of course, as you know, helped steer two G7 economies through some turbulent times, and he got a lot of praise for his work doing that. But beyond praise, he got some job offers, and that included chairman of the board of Brookfield Asset Management, one of the country's largest investment firms that has a lot of money tied up in infrastructure, in green climate-related investments, a lot of real estate. And he's now facing some scrutiny for some of the decisions that the board took when he was chairman of that company, including the board's decision to move the company's head office from Toronto to New York. A move that was made, the company says, because they wanted to have more access to U.S. capital, to American investors. They felt the best way to expand their operations was being based in New York. Carney was asked about that move last night. Here's what he said about his role.
I was chair of Brookfield Asset Management. I ceased to be chair on the 15th, I think, of January, when I announced for leadership. The formal decision of the board, happened after I ceased to be on the board. I do not have a connection with Brookfield Asset Management. No longer have a role, obviously, as I resigned in the middle of January.
But we have company documents that were filed in October that show the board made the decision to move the head office from Toronto to New York in October of last year. And they released a statement to their investors at the time, and it reads pretty definitively, Brookfield Asset Management has now changed its head office to New York, dated October 31st, not in January, as Carney suggested in that clip. That's led the Conservatives to accuse Carney of misleading Canadians about his role in moving this office. Have a listen to Michael Barrett. He's the Conservative Party's ethics critic.
Last night, Mark Carney lied to Canadians. Donald Trump asked companies to move to the United States. And what was the response from Mark Carney? It was to immediately support and to his board unanimously voting to move their headquarters from Canada to New York City, not standing up to Donald Trump, not protecting Canadian interests, Canadian investment, Canadian jobs, not even modeling good behavior.
The Carney campaign has released a statement since the Conservatives were out on that. They do not, though, address the disparity in the office move timelines, but we can bring you a bit of what they're telling us this afternoon. Let's put it up on the screen for our viewers so we can show them this. They say Pierre Poilievre is scared of running against Mark Carney, and he's desperate to misrepresent Mark's serious experience in business because he has no economic experience whatsoever. Brookfield Asset Management remains one of the largest investors in Canada. It continues to list on the Toronto Stock Exchange, and its parent company, Brookfield Corp, continues to be headquartered in Toronto. So the parent company is still in Toronto, David, but the asset management division, that has moved to New York, and that happened on Carney's watch.
Okay, so the moves happened prior to him getting into politics, and the move happened prior to Donald Trump getting elected, despite Trump being mentioned in all of this, to get access to these U.S. indexes. Beyond this being a paper transaction of a corporate headquarters relocation, why does this matter? What are the implications for jobs, for Canadian tax revenue? What's the bottom line here?
Well, it's prestigious for Canada to have the head office of a major firm like this. You know, Brookfield is a point of pride for Canada. It's a major corporation. All of its various divisions represent about 10% of the Toronto Stock Exchange. So it's a loss for Canadian business and corporate Canada for this office to be moved to New York. They're suggesting that they'll have more success by being stateside. But in terms of the practical implications of this, David, it's not entirely clear, because when Brookfield Asset Management announced these changes back in October, they said that there would would be no meaningful effect on its operations. Now, we asked the corporation today, does that mean there were no job losses as a result? You say there was no meaningful changes to the corporate operations, but does that mean anybody lost their job? And that is not clear because Brookfield is not getting back to us. They have not responded to any of our requests for comments. You mentioned taxes. There is the possibility that this could have some tax implications as well, although it's not entirely clear. We did speak to one expert today who watches the stock market, who watches Brookfield and other companies and familiar with these sort of transactions, and he says it's a possibility that there are tax implications, that perhaps they will pay American taxes, pay less taxes in this country, but he doesn't have an inside look on it, and Brookfield's not getting back to us, so we can't say definitively one way or the other. But either way, the Conservatives trying to raise the point that Carney's all about the economy, but when he had a chance to move a company, he did it.
Okay, JP, appreciate you reporting. That's the CBC's JP Tasker here in Ottawa. Thank you, sir.